I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmasters, and this is LD and the MC.
It is Wednesday, March 24th. What up, Humpers? Obviously, a little different setup for this LD and the MC. First of all, special shout out to my Uncle Bob for the intro as always. But Luke's not home. That's right. Normally it's Dave's not home, but it is Luke's not home. For those of you who don't know, Dave's not home. You don't watch enough Cheech and Chong. But for those of you that do, you understand Luke is not home. Unfortunately, not going to be part of the podcast this week. Busy with a bunch of things TH-wise. I made a promise. I made a promise to you all. I told the Humpers that thick or thin, we would give you a little hump back in your hump day, every single hump day, and we can't miss it, right? So I literally drove all night. This is being recorded less than 24 hours after Dollar Bill won his first Elite Series event, obviously down in Florence. Pretty awesome week there, but I got off the stage, gave Bill a hug, said goodbye to everyone, got in my car and drove. Slept at various truck stops on the way home and tried to avoid being murdered or molested, but I made it. I made it. And I did it for one reason, and that is so that we could have this. First of all, let's just jump right into it. I mean, an awesome week down there. I mean, started with delayed everything. So that was, the irony of life in Alabama. I got there and we had tornadoes everywhere. So on that day, everybody was looking to get low, get a ground floor room in your hotel, get away from the windows. I don't know what to do in a tornado, but I had a lot of people around me that could help in these situations. So that was day one of cancellation. Then day two, or postponement, I should say. The next day was flooding. So the irony was, on one day we were looking to get as low as possible. And then the next day we were looking to get as high as possible. But finally we fished. It was a Saturday to Tuesday event, a very rare Championship Tuesday. Freaking cool week because, number one, I went to the Muscle Shoals Sound Studio. And if I had done that normally, it wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have had the time that I had there. I got to spend a bunch of time with Judy Hood, who is David Hood's wife, and he's one of the original Swampers. If you don't know who the Swampers are, you need to check this out. You need to watch a movie called Muscle Shoals, a biography, won a bunch of awards. But basically, it's about that studio and also another Fame, which is another studio, which was the original kind of studio where the Swampers kind of cast off from. The Swampers, what a group. That group, they have more gold records than the Beatles. They've recorded, it started with Cher, but then it became 5 albums with Bob Seger and the ones. The ones that we all love and cherish. Willie Nelson, Wilson Pickett, Aretha Franklin, Jimmy freaking Cliff. Jimmy Cliff brought reggae to America in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? He was before Bob Marley. So, and it was recorded there. Aretha Franklin was recorded there. RES. Like, really? I won't finish spelling it because I probably can't. But it's crazy. So that was awesome. It was honestly one of those things that I'd always wanted to see, but it turned out to be better than I ever imagined. So that was cool. And I would have never got a chance to spend the amount of time that I spent there if it was during the event. It would have been a quick run over there, get some B-roll and maybe do a quick interview. But I spent several hours there, then ended up bringing Overstreet back there, and cool place. If you're ever in the area, you need to check it out. The actual Lynyrd Skynyrd, they're kind of a big deal. The actual piano that Freebird was written on is right there. The Rolling Stones recorded the F. It's bizarre. And when you leave there, you're kind of like, number one, you're amazed by the history. Like, they have a secret. They brought me downstairs to the green room, and there's a secret room because when performers would come there, this was during Prohibition, and it was also it was a dry county. Outside of Prohibition, it was a dry county, so you couldn't drink there. And people like Mick Jagger and that they don't know couldn't. So they put in a secret room and they showed me that and stuff. So all that is cool. But the coolest thing is when you're leaving there, driving out of there, I'm like, man, this is the road that all of like the helicopter landed and brought in the Stones and stuff. It's really, really cool. And the even more bizarre thing is Dr. Dre is a major reason that I was able to tour it, because he gave them a big grant to kind of revitalize the studio. Obviously, like many great things of the past, it was kind of left. So that was freaking cool. And then the tournament started, which thank God. I mean, Lisa Talmadge, our senior tournament manager, was working with Hank Weldon this week, and they both made some great decisions. I mean, together they ran that event, and thank you, LT, and thanks, Hank, because there was a lot of people that thought that event should have been pushed back. And if you watch the live coverage, it was honestly one of the coolest events. I mean, at a time when everybody is so obsessed with forward-facing sonar and pricing yourself, you can't go on a chat board or somewhere without somebody saying, you're going to price yourself out of the game. I mean, you can't compete in tournaments unless you have this, this, and this. And it's the final day, and I'm watching two dudes slinging black jigs at shorelines. That dock that Corey fished, the charge by Brock Mosley, awesome. But ultimately, dollar bill. And I mean, I know Brock was crushed. That gives Brock a second place, and man, he's going to get one. And so is Corey. But man, there's nobody that could be like, I kind of was due more than dollar bill. I mean, Bill Owen and that entire family, Jennifer's beautiful wife, beautiful voice. Indeed. Team Scream. You guys hear him at every way, and you got to see. I mean, that's actually, it's funny. Several people said, oh, it was cool to see Team Scream, because they don't get to see them. They just hear them in the crowd. So it just, you leave those kind of events and you're like, wow, this is all is right with the world. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of, not that every victory isn't cool, but you just, I left that one on a high. I mean, I drove all night to get to you. It was like a Celine Dion song. I drove all night to get to you. Doom, 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 doom. Canadian reference, Celine Dion, something like that. I don't know. But an awesome event, incredible. And one of the coolest things for me is I got to do a lot. Me and Davey did a lot more live together this week. I mean, normally we cover the events together, but it hasn't been since before he joined the Elites, really, when he went, or before he joined the broadcast team, when he was competing on the Elites and he would just come to like Angler of the Year and stuff and do some live. Me and him did some stuff together, but we don't really get to work side by side that much. We work at the event, but he's in one boat, I'm in another, or I'm on the shore, he's out in the water. We got to do a couple hours every day of live, which was a lot of fun to do with Davey. It was cool. We were hosting live when Bill caught that giant fish, which was awesome. So yeah, all in all, an awesome week. Thanks to everybody that came out. Thanks to all the Humpers that came up and told us about this absolutely crappy show that they watch every single Wednesday night. And that's the reason I drove all night to get to you guys. And I wanted to make sure that we had a podcast this week. And no shade on LD, obviously. He's busy. Next week's got a big open, so let's hope he's back here, because I miss you. But I mean, I have potentially about to make the most varsity move ever. I mean, you guys need a podcast. I'm willing to, I need somebody to do a podcast with. So, I mean, I just figured if Luke can't be here, I will get the biggest mamma jamma in the history of the sport. Ladies and gentlemen, it's hard to believe I'm about to do this, but I am. Let's bring him in right now. A very special episode of KVD the MC. Kevin, thank you for doing this. First of all, you're at Rayburn right now, so home of many big bass, but not home of a very good cell phone signal. So I'm thankful that we can actually communicate.
Yeah, if you wonder about my background, I'm over at Rayburn country right now, kind of stealing the Wi-Fi just to make it work. So good, man. We should do this more often.
Well, there has to be a first for there to be more. And
Yeah.
speaking of firsts, man, this past weekend, first came that really the fishing industry has waited for a long time to see, and that is Dollar Bill. This past week at the Elite Series event, I know you were busy competing in your event, but man, that dude has. I mean, what went through your mind when you heard he won?
Well, so obviously am keeping up with what's going on, and I saw he was doing well over there. First off, Kobe Krieger was leading, and Kobe and I go way back too. So I was really pulling for Kobe in the beginning, and then when I saw Bill, having really right there in the leadership spot, I mean, he was commanding all week long going into the championship day. I'm like, man, I sure hope he wins, because Bill's one of those all-time, not just Bill, but his whole family, his wife. They are incredible people. Just, the nicest could be, as honest as there is. I mean, I've fished around Bill plenty of times. You never worry about him coaching you or anything. He's just one of the all-around great guys of the sport. That's an incredible angler to not have a win to this point. So, I mean, it's like, when is it going to happen? I bet he wondered it too. So pretty special week for him for sure.
And the cool thing, I think, watching it for me and Davey were lucky enough to be hosting live when he hooked into that giant fish. But the cool thing was, if you remember Chesapeake, and I don't know how much of that event you followed on the final day, but it was the exact duplicate, except Aaron won that time. It looked like Aaron was going to lose. It was going to be another Aaron Martin's collapse on the big day. And then all of a sudden he caught that big fish and it turned. And that's exactly what it kind of felt like with Bill. Everybody was saying, well, Corey or somebody like that seemed to be walking away with it. He hooked that big fish, and the rest is history. Speaking of history, I just talked about both guys. I mean, how cool is it? Aaron was competing again this week. Tell me about that, Kevin.
Yeah, it's great to see him. Aaron's, if everybody, I think, in the fishing world knows that Aaron Martins has been dealing with some health issues, basically, a brain tumor. And, for him to come back after, the time off last year, he's getting a lot of treatments, and he's still doing a lot of treatments. It's great to see him. He's the same Aaron, always happy, smiling. I actually had dinner with him the other night. He's been competing in the same round with me. I see him in the morning and the evenings, and he's just one of those another great guys that everybody loves. Aaron is he's obviously one of the greatest fishermen of all time. I mean, intellectually, he knows things and figures things out that just leave the rest of us scrambling our brains for at times, and that's what makes him special. But he's same old Aaron. Looking forward to. Actually, I'm going to have dinner with him again today.
That's awesome. I mean, both those stories. I mean, there isn't a person that fishes that wasn't excited to see Bill win and excited to see Aaron back competing. And what we've proved right here, Kevin, is we're still friends. I mean, we can all get along. This show will unify this entire industry. You think?
Yeah. There you go, Dave. You and I have been friends long before anything, the Bass MLF thing, whatever. It's not a us and them deal to me, anyways. As the angling community, we're all one big family, and that's how I look at it.
Definitely, and I think the more people that can look at it like that, I mean, we all joke and whatever, but the more people look at it, the more we move forward. But speaking of big, I'm going to move us on to our next topic here today, Kevin. I don't know if you've been able to pay attention to the news while you're competing, but the NFL just signed a brand new television rights deal for $110 billion with a B, $110 billion. And all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes' $500 million salary doesn't seem out of touch, does it?
The NFL just continues to amaze me how they, they're printing money. They are the envy of every sports league out there, for sure. I mean, you look at the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NHL and NASCAR and, other golf, whatever it is, it's nothing even close. And I guess, when it comes to football season, the way you and I are, with our teams and that, I'm a big Lions fan. I know you're a big Chiefs fan. You understand why, but that is just That's unbelievable. They are, gosh, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
As a Lions fan, do the Chiefs give you hope? I mean, because I mean, we that's one thing we have in common. Both our teams have had some tough years, but if
Oh, right.
well, the Chiefs, I mean, not these recent
You
years.
got Patrick Mahomes.
I know, but you've got Motor City Dan Campbell, your brand new coach. He made it. What do you think of him?
You know, I like a lot of the things. I like the direction. We're in a rebuilding period for sure. But I like a lot of the moves. I mean, Matt Stafford, you know how I am about Matt Stafford. I am a huge fan. I am now an LA Rams fan because Matt Stafford. I'm going to watch him, and I hope he does real well. I mean, they're already projecting. I mean, they're a playoff team and a potential Super Bowl team with him there. And I think the world saw that you got to have a great defense goes a really long way into winning the Super Bowl. You can have all the weapons, you can have Tom Brady and you can have all the offensive weapons, Patrick Mahomes, but you better have a great defense too. So, the Lions got a lot of work to do, but yeah, I've been kind of, hoping for, I don't know, many decades, and I'm still going to be hoping, but I don't have my fingers crossed. I've got my fingers crossed, but I don't have a lot of expectations for this year, but I just hope that they, start putting the right pieces together. We're obviously going to have some draft picks, and they got another great opportunity or another window that's coming, and we had that window with Calvin Johnson, I think, and Stafford to begin with, and Ndamukong Suh, and it closed. It's not just closed, it slammed. But it's interesting. Gives me something to do on Sundays.
It's crazy how quick those windows close, though. Like if you look at the Chiefs the day before the Super Bowl, every pundit was talking about the Chiefs dynasty. A day later, they're like, "Will the Chiefs ever win again?" You know what I mean? It's amazing how that affects things. But speaking of which, I mean, before we move on, one of the coolest things about Motor City Dan Campbell, your new coach, is his recent. He made a press quote, and it was. They'll knock us down, and they'll knock us down again. And if they keep knocking us down, we'll bite their kneecaps off and bring them down to our level. So he definitely has a winning attitude. But I want to talk to you about that because in the sport of fishing, Kevin, I mean, you hear it over and over again about how important momentum is and how important confidence is. And I want to talk to you about how that feels in a minute. But first of all, I want to ask you, why do you think, is that just something that writers say, or is it really that important?
No, it's real. I, no doubt, no question that I've been in that zone and I've watched a lot of anglers. I mean, over my career, you see it almost, every season. You see somebody get, really hot, get in the zone, make a run, win Angler of the Year, or win two or three tournaments in a row, or, making top tens, back to back to back, things like that. And then the next year they have a bad year. I mean, I've been in it many times, and it's real for sure. And I wish that I could just say, well, hey, here's the magic switch, and it just puts you in that zone. But it's not that easy. I think in fishing, a lot of it has to do with the schedule, with how it lines up to a guy's strengths. You'll see that, where, back in the day, Denny Brower, for instance, you had 2 or 3 events line up where the conditions are good lakes for a shallow water, power fisherman, a flipper, him and Biffle, whatever, and they would go on a run. Or offshore cranking. I watched David Fritz do it, the year he won Angler of the Year back in the day. I watched Davey Height do it a couple of times. I've seen Swindle. I've done it multiple times. I've seen Skeet. It goes in streaks, and a lot of it has to do with the lakes where when you get there and you feel really comfortable, and then the conditions line up to fit your style of fishing, that's when you can be really dangerous. And in recent years, it's always different guys too. That's the thing. In recent years, you watch guys get on these incredible runs, just like John Cox. He's fishing all 3 leagues, and he wins last week. I mean, he's not having a really good week here this week, but there's a guy that is got a lot of momentum. And I think a lot of it for him is just, he's a guy that just needs to fish a ton. I mean, he needs to be, he's on the water, and everybody has their own system of how they're going to compete and their work ethic and things like that to get them in that zone and to focus on that. And that's important. I mean, no doubt, more than anything, fishing is a mental game. More than any, the average fan just doesn't understand that, it's not about luck. It's not about, good fortune or anything like that. It's truly all about positive mental focus, attitude, and making it happen. I mean, there's so many times when I just get out there and things aren't going well, and I just battle through it mentally. I mean, you just fight through it and say, I'm going to make this happen. Keep changing, keep doing different things. And a lot of times I can make that work for me.
Being lucky enough to be able to, call you a friend, but also have covered you a bunch over the years, watching you when you're in that set. I mean, it's not and it's not just you, it's anybody that gets in that. Yep. It's not so much, an arrogance thing or anything. It's just it's no different than I use the analogy like the UPS dude. He shows up. He doesn't think, well, will I be able to deliver this package? He's just like, it's my job to deliver the package. And I remember the last angler of the year that you won at Bass. And I remember covering you that day. And I remember, I'm sure you've heard me tell this story, but you had said to me at takeoff, you're like, are you following me again today? And it was day 2. And it was kind of, if you got him that day, it's over. You win another angler of the year title. And I'd covered you on day 1 with Overstreet. And I remember you turned to me and you're like, are you coming today? And I said, yeah, I'll be out after takeoff. And you're like, well, hurry up, because I'm going to catch 17 pounds, seal the deal on this thing, and win the title. And I kind of, we chuckled and you gave me your wink or whatever, but you went to your first spot. And if you remember, it was Ott was on that spot and he was fishing kind of a spill well. There was water coming. It was like just a runoff area. You'd fished it day 1 while Ott's sitting on it. And me, the tournament angler in me is like, well, here's where Kevin VanDam rolls in, freaks out on that guy. Because, I mean, number one, Ott was a rookie at the time. You an angler, you could have big brothered him there, but you didn't. You just moved, went to your spot B, and Ike and another guy was on it, I remember. And then you moved to spot 3, caught 17 pounds in 15 minutes, and won angler of the year. And I watched how the confidence literally oozed out of you. But I've always wondered, what does that feel like? Well, when you're, and maybe you're in that zone now, not to say you're not, but when it's, what does it feel like to be there?
Well, you definitely know it. And it's not that you're being cocky or arrogant as an angler. What it is you as an angler understanding the environment around you, the lake, the way it's setting up, the current conditions, and that, hey, it's all lining up, I mean, and that's just the zone that you get in, is knowing, and that comes from experience. I don't think a young angler or somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience understands that, hey, when we get these conditions and the weather's doing this and the water temperature is warming up and the fish are moving and you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together and you start calling your shots, that's when you're in you're really in that zone. And it's an unbelievable feeling to be there, but it's a hard thing to, like I say, just to jump into, or to say, well, hey, I'm going to go to this tournament this week and it's going to be that way, because things change. It's like this week here at Rayburn. It's one of the best lakes in the country. And, we showed up the week before. They had unbelievable tournaments down here, and we show up on a cold front, and it's not like it's end of the world cold front, but it changed things. And this lake it's not just us. It's not fishing that way. There's 3,000 tournament boats out here every weekend, and it's just off for everybody. And now we got warming conditions and clouds and it's like we move faster than the bass sometimes. So, we don't always have it all figured out, but when one or two guys does, and it clicks like that, it's pretty easy to watch. And now with everything being shown live, you can watch it real time. And that's the cool moments, just like Bill Lowen catching that 8-pounder, normally in the past that would be him and maybe a cameraman, or, it's just your co-angler or something like that. And the world doesn't get to see that moment or that emotion or that excitement. And that's the beauty of what we have done in professional bass fishing now, showing, you don't miss anything. That's why I don't think we have near as many spectators on the water, because it's way better to watch the live than it is to be out there 100 yards away from Bill Lowen when he catches that fish right there. You see it, you feel it, and you live it. And you can also kind of get an idea of what that guy's going through. So, you see it because you're really close to it all the time. You're covering these guys, you're covering, every event, and you see the ebbs and the flows and the rise and the fall. And certain guys are just more confident than others to begin with. But when you see a guy get in that zone, it's not hard to realize it. Like, man, he's got it going on. And then the next day, there's no guarantee that it's coming back. You have to do that every single day, Is
it one of those things that, do you know right away when you're in it? Or, obviously, I'm sure several of your runs, you knew pretty good. They were pretty ridiculous, greedy almost, some may say. But on some of your, is it something you realize quicker that you're out of it than you're into it, kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, because when I watch it, go ahead.
It's different every time. Sometimes you'll go to a tournament and you start out, maybe your first day you catch a 22-pound bag and you're in the lead or you're right up there. But the pattern you're fishing is something that, with the weather and the time of the year and the conditions, is fading, but it just happens to be the best pattern to be on. And you always want to be fishing a pattern where the fish are coming to you, or that should be getting better. That's what you plan for. But unfortunately, you can't make it work like that all the time. And when a pattern is going away or the conditions are going away from you, it's out of your control. You just go out there and try to do the best that you can. Like this week here at Rayburn, my first day out on the water, I had a pretty solid day, and that I was putting the pieces together, and I felt really, really, really dialed in. And then with our format, 40 guys fish the first day, you get a day off, then 40 guys fish. That day off, the conditions changed. We got a big bunch of storms. We had a whole lot of wind that blew. And, I got back out there and I'm like, whoa, this area got muddy and the grass is all shredded. And it totally changed having that downtime there. And so you have to go and regroup. So the best thing about momentum, to carry momentum, is to keep going every single day. So if you got back-to-back tournaments, that's the way to carry momentum. How many times on the Elite Series when we had back-to-backs, you see a guy, or I'll go and, you fish Wheeler and Kentucky Lake back-to-back, and, you go and it's offshore fishing. It's the same type of pattern. You see the same guys right there at the top of the standings both weeks in a row, and it's momentum, confidence, and timing.
I was just thinking about it. It's a good thing you guys have off days, because if you didn't, John Cox would never literally have a day where he does not fish. Those but it's a good thing we can't postpone 2 days and you guys have off days, because John Cox would never not fish.
I'm not sure how he made it here, when you guys got, and that's something else too that is just absolutely crazy. You look at what we have gone through as the top fishing leagues out there, both leagues, the last 2 years, weather-wise, what we've had to deal with this pandemic and Mother Nature, it's ridiculous. We got moved from Redfest, should have been in Texas. They had a never recorded, type event in history happen. And then, you guys have the flood of the century down there at Pickwick, and it's just unbelievable that you got to deal with it. But I'm glad. I tell you what, I'm really glad is that they didn't shorten the event, that they still kept it 4 days, because there's something really special about somebody continuing to dominate. A 2-day tournament or a 1-day tournament is one thing, but when you fish 3 days, it's hard. When you fish 4, it's real hard. And, you guys carry your weight through all of them. We have cuts where we should go back to 0. And I think that actually makes it harder, because you you don't get to keep the momentum that you had at, I mean, it goes both ways. I feel bad in certain situations, but it also gives you more opportunities, to have it there. And honestly, the biggest thing is so much of our sport and the formats, it's fan driven, I mean, that's why we're live streaming everything, is because that's what, I mean, fans want to see, be part of the action. And that's the biggest transition in this is my 31st year, I think, in competitive fishing. And I think that's, this is the greatest era ever. And for the fans, I mean, because people want to learn more than anything. They, and you can see everything. You can watch a guy and see exactly how he's turning the handle on his reel, with the live coverage. You get in, he's out there thinking, and when things aren't going well, he's telling you what's going on. And when they are going really well, when you have those key moments, it's pretty dang special to be able to watch.
Yeah, I like how it shows the real emotion. You know what I mean? It shows the reasons that people cry when they win. It's not because they got a big check and they got a shiny trophy. It's because of you look at Bill Owen's 8-5 was not near as moving if you didn't see him struggle for several hours and think, wow, it's going to happen again. He's going to get another second. So that's what I think. That's what I love. And it shows the adjustments and everything that comes from it. Do you kind of hate it a little bit? Like, I know you love it and you're talking now, so you have to, but there's got to be part of you that was like, back in the day, it was a lot easier to keep crap under wraps.
Yeah, you can't hide anything anymore. I mean, it's funny. We were talking earlier. I was doing a story or an interview with a writer, and he's like, "Man, what's the deal? Why is this jerkbait so prevalent these days? It seems like it's all seasons of the year." I said, "Man, I've been doing it for 30 years, but you just never saw it." I said, "Live is what has shown it to the world, is that you can't hide anything anymore." I've known jerkbaits great in the summer and dirty water and a lot of other situations forever. Now everybody's just seeing it firsthand. So, that's just one thing, but it really, really doesn't matter the technique or the time of the year or anything like that. Part of it is the patterns and the fishing. That's cool. But to me, the best part about live is exactly you see those highs and lows when a guy's having a good day or a bad day, what he's going through. And we can all relate to that, because I've had plenty of bad days, and it's like, man, it's just tough, and it didn't happen. And you feel, I mean, you get emotionally attached. And I think that's why our viewership and our fan base is, we have such a large following, is because they've live it and breathe it too. Whether you're in a club tournament or you're just fishing against your buddy on the weekend, or you're out there fishing, a top level event, we all have our great days and our bad days, and it's humbling. And when you have those really great days, and when you have one of those really great moments, that's what makes it really so special.
Well, you've had a few of those moments, and Kevin, it won't be near as cool without me there screaming some ridiculous stuff when you do it. But go win one of those shiny trophies this week.
I'm doing everything I can to. It's no different than, like we said before, when I was fishing on the Elite Series and went 5 years without a win. They're like, "Whoa, when's KVD done? Was he ever going to win again?" And it goes back to exactly what we talked about. When you have the right conditions and schedule and timing that just lines up, it's easy to rip off 2 or 3 in a row. I mean, that's how it goes. But in my mind, in that 5-year period when I didn't have a win, and I was still, it felt like I can win. I'm out there doing everything I can, working my tail off, putting in. It's not like I'm not doing the same things. I'm not putting the work in and the time and trying hard. It's the way that it is. When you've got an 80-man field or 100-man field, and there's only one winner, you're going to lose a lot more than you're ever going to win. So when you see somebody get on a run like that, or you get in that groove, it's pretty dang special, and it's something that should be celebrated for sure.
Definitely, indeed. I want to thank you for being on here. It's been a lot of fun. Go get a shiny trophy. This has been
KVD
and the MC.